Our story begins on Kashyyyk, inside of one of the tree bases as a battle is underway, and Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, the legendary Yoda himself, is looking at the blue hologram of Mace Windu. Mace was in the Jedi Temple back on Coruscant, and he told Yoda that the time had come. He will be taking Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, Sazitin to demand that Chancellor Palpatine remove himself from power and give up his emergency powers. It is time that they return this republic to the democracy it was meant to be. And with the reports from Utapau claiming that Grievous and his army are cornered, they cannot allow any time for Palpatine to come up with a plan to continue his long, overdue term in office. Yoda looked at Windu, a blue ghost across the galaxy, and deep down, he regretted ever coming to Kashyyyk, the most important moment for the Jedi in decades, and he was off-world in a battle that could be meaningless if the war comes to an end soon, one way or another. But there was no changing that. Yoda made his choice, thinking that leaving Coruscant would draw out the Sith Lord from hiding so Windu could defeat him. And so, all he could do was put his mind towards this battle, and he gave Windu his approval for the mission, telling the Jedi Master to only do as much as he has to do in order to secure an end to this war and a peaceful transition of power. Windu's hologram blinked out, and Yoda looked upon the separatist assault on the beaches below. Wookiees were swinging from tree vines, clone snipers firing from the tallest trees. The entire world seemed to be shaking and crying out. Yoda was not here to fight directly in the battle. He came because he had good relations with the Wookiees, and the relationship between clones and Wookiees could be a bit intense. He was here to mediate the battle, to help Commander Gree command from the trees, and allow Jedi Luminara Unduli and Quinlan Vos to lead the effort from the front. But today, as the battle went on, Yoda noticed a weak point on the left flank. Luminara and her forces were being overrun, so Yoda got into the back of a Wookiee fluttercraft that Tarful was flying. They were going to go and reinforce this left flank, but as the craft began descending towards the ground, Yoda suddenly felt a massive disturbance in the Force, unlike anything that he'd ever felt before. He heard an echo. It was Anakin screaming out with a loud, agonized "No!" And as Yoda tried to recover, he felt Anakin again, saying, "What have I done?" The craft continued to fly towards the battle, but Yoda was barely here anymore. And within moments now, he felt a wave of death moving through the Force. The light of the Jedi was dimming rapidly. And then Yoda felt it. The disturbance reached Kashyyyk. But because he was in his craft, Gree ordered all available tanks to aim and fire. The Republic tanks would obliterate the fluttercraft, and Yoda would close his eyes as he died, knowing that his time to join the spirit realm with Qui-Gon has come. But then, Yoda slowly opened his eyes, and the bright lights reflecting off the grand windows of the Jedi Council were hitting him. Yoda felt as if he just woke up from a deep sleep, but he quickly began to remember all of it. The Battle of Kashyyyk, the great disturbance in the Force, the darkness, the death, and... Yoda's eyes went to the newly filled council seat, to Anakin, and strangely, Anakin was looking at Yoda with a curious look in his eyes. Yoda was still trying to gather himself, as Mace tapped Yoda's shoulder, asking if everything was alright. Yoda shook his head a bit, then just said yes, and Ki-Adi-Mundi once more would ask what should be done about the droid attack on the Wookiees. Before this meeting, Yoda and Windu had discussed a strategy for pulling Darth Sidious out of hiding. One of them was going to leave Coruscant, and Yoda had decided it would be him. But this time, after living what he just lived through, in a reality where Windu clearly fails to get Palpatine to give up his powers, and the Grand Army turns against the Republic, Yoda decided they must switch roles. He did not disclose any of the reasoning to the Jedi Council. He knew it would not exactly sound real if he admitted that he just lived through what felt like the death of the Jedi Order and returned completely intact, but he looked to Mace and told him that he will lead the Battle of Kashyyyk. Mace will do it. Mace was dumbfounded by this. He looked at Yoda with great concern as he asked Yoda if he was sure. Mace affirmed that he truly believes he can best serve the Jedi and the Republic if he remains here on Coruscant. But Yoda was extremely firm in this idea, telling Windu that he will go to Kashyyyk, and he will aid the Wookiees. Windu understood that Yoda was not messing around with this. He was serious, and so he would nod to the Grand Master. The council meeting was adjourned, and Windu was the last one in the room, still in his seat, completely confused by this new course of action. He didn't get it. But outside of the council chambers, Obi-Wan and Anakin were walking down the stairs as Anakin was angrily ranting to Kenobi about not being made a Jedi Master. He thought it was outrageous and unfair to be on the council and not be a master. But Obi-Wan told him to calm down, saying that he's been given a great honor. And Obi-Wan told his friend that he was only put on the council because of his friendship with Chancellor Palpatine. Obi-Wan was slowly working his way towards revealing to Anakin that he was to be a spy for the council on the dealings of Palpatine. But as Obi-Wan turned to face him, a new voice spoke up from down the hall, telling Anakin that he is right. It is unfair. Skywalker and Kenobi turned to see Master Yoda slowly walking down the hall, and Yoda would tell Obi-Wan to go with Master Windu to his Republic Venator, and sure, he does indeed take off to Kashyyyk. Obi-Wan nodded to Anakin, and he turned away, breathing out a big sigh of relief. He truly did not at all want to tell Anakin to spy on the Chancellor. He knew how Anakin would react to that type of assignment, and now Anakin would never receive that assignment at all. Yoda walked alone with Anakin down the halls of the temple, asking Anakin to be open with him, be honest. What is it that Anakin wants and expects from him and the council? Anakin didn't understand. What was this sudden shift in Yoda? And, in all honesty with himself, Yoda didn't fully understand either. He was trying to put the pieces together of what happened, while also trying to stop it from happening once more. He knew that something terrible happened to Anakin. He cried out in pain, but not physical pain or death like the rest of the Order. Anakin stayed alive, and rather, it was emotional pain. And Yoda again asked Anakin what it is that he wants. Anakin said he wants to be a Jedi Master. He feels he deserves the honor. He feels like there are secrets in the Force that the Jedi are not telling him. Yoda stopped in his tracks and pointed his cane at Skywalker, telling him that this impatience is exactly why he is not a master. He must wait, and in time, the honor will come to him. And Anakin accidentally blurted out that he doesn't have time to wait, and he closed his eyes as Yoda asked if this was all about the nightmares and the visions that he has been having. Yoda continued walking as he told Anakin that he expects trust and honesty from the council, and yet he cannot offer the council the same in regards to who his nightmares are about. Anakin went a bit red as he realized that Yoda was right. So, Yoda told Anakin that he will be honest with him if Anakin is honest in return. Anakin nodded, curious as to what Yoda meant, and Yoda revealed that he, too, has had some sort of dream or vision that seems very vivid or real. To Yoda, going to Kashyyyk and dying there all felt so real. It was real. He truly felt like it happened, and somehow he has returned. But it made no sense. It had to have been a dream, and he told Anakin what he saw and felt. Mace Windu and a group of Jedi went to go and remove Chancellor Palpatine from power after Grievous was basically defeated. But instead, Yoda said he felt a wave of darkness as Jedi across the galaxy began to die out, and then his own clone troopers turned on him, killing him. And Yoda would promise to help Anakin with whatever his visions are of. But first, he must complete a mission for the sake of the Jedi Order and for the galaxy. A mission that will immediately vault him into becoming a Jedi Master. Yoda told Anakin he must go to Kamino, and he must find the truth. Find out why the clones would turn on the Jedi so easily. And as Yoda continued down the hall, Anakin felt hope for the first time in days. He could become a Jedi Master and get the help he truly needs from Yoda to save Padme's life. All he must do is first help Yoda with his own visions. So, as Mace Windu begrudgingly took off for Kashyyyk, Anakin would say goodbye to Padme, promising to help her with this mission. And he moved down to the Republic hangar bay. His new starship was ready for this solo mission. He got a new one after his was destroyed aboard the Invisible Hand, and it was stationed next to another newer starship, which Anakin thought was odd. But as he got closer, a friendly voice called out, saying it seems like they'd been given the same mission. It was Obi-Wan. Yoda told him to go with Anakin, and so together, Skywalker and Kenobi would take off for Kamino. Meanwhile, it would be reported to Palpatine that Anakin was sent on a special assignment by the Jedi Council. Palpatine was obviously frustrated with this, but he expected Anakin back shortly. And Yoda was the one who delivered this news to Palpatine, as he was now taking many roles upon himself. It was clear to him that Palpatine was involved with Sidious in some way. He either was the Dark Lord of the Sith, or working very closely with him. But, as always, Palpatine did not give any indication to Yoda in this meeting about his true identity. And then, Yoda would dispatch Kit Fisto and Agen Kolar to Utapau to fight General Grievous. He was going to force the walls to close in on Sidious. And this time, when Yoda soon goes to remove Palpatine from power, he will not fail like Windu did. And across the galaxy, on Kamino, Anakin and Obi-Wan move through the rain into the facilities, requesting the files for ARC Trooper 5s, Clone Trooper Tup, and all available information on the inhibitor chips. Prime Minister Lama Su told the Jedi this should be no problem, and he invited the Jedi to sit in a small waiting room as he gathers the information. But once Lama Su was separated from the Jedi, he would contact the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Typically, during this war, Lama Su has spoken to Darth Tyrannus about Jedi interference in the grand plans. But Tyrannus was dead, and so, the Kaminoan would tell Sidious that the two Jedi, Anakin and Obi-Wan, are here, and they are searching for information regarding the inhibitor chips. Sidious nodded, saying that he will dispatch a squad that will take care of this problem, and Sidious would send his solution to Kamino to take care of this problem. Palpatine began pacing around his office, thinking about how everything shifted not long ago. It all happened after he made Anakin his personal representative on the Jedi Council. In his mind, the Jedi would have let Anakin have the seat, but they would have used it to have Anakin spy on him, and Palpatine would twist it into making Anakin think the Jedi were evil, while convincing him that only the Sith can save Padme. And yet, Anakin was on Kamino, far away from Coruscant, searching for the key to Sidious's plans. Order 66. Sidious was pacing around for many hours, not realizing the hour had gotten so late. And as reports began coming in from Utapau, stating that Kit Fisto and Agen Kolar had engaged Grievous, Palpatine could feel the walls closing in on his plans. And then, to his greatest annoyance, the silver steel doors slid open, and Grandmaster Yoda slowly stepped inside, alone, telling the Chancellor they still have much more to discuss. Or should he call him Darth Sidious? Palpatine inclined his head, giving a small smile and telling Yoda he's been wondering what has gone wrong with his plans. It appears that Yoda has finally figured him out after only 1 decade of being manipulated, if not more. Sidious told Yoda he was too late. He will die, the Jedi Order will burn away, and the Republic will become his new empire. Yoda told Sidious not to be so sure. The Jedi are about to figure out all of his plans, and Sidious gave Yoda a fake look of pity, saying that he hopes Yoda does not speak of Skywalker and Kenobi on Kamino. Things will not be going as they may have hoped. And back on Kamino, Anakin became impatient with waiting for the Prime Minister, as finally, Lama Su began guiding the Jedi down to a lab. But once inside of the lab, the doors would be shut behind the Jedi, and from behind the nearby consoles and corner walls, 12 of Palpatine's personal Red Guards would emerge, igniting their weapons, as the two Jedi knew now they were on the right track to finding the truth. They ignited their blue lightsabers, looking at this new enemy and preparing for the brutal fight that was to come. And on Coruscant, Yoda would ignite his green blade as he and Sidious exploded towards each other. Sidious swung for Yoda's head, but Yoda caught the strike, spun beneath his arm and cut for his back. Sidious twisted away. He blocked this strike and kicked Yoda across the office, then raised his saber as Yoda threw an entire desk at him with the Force. Sidious cut through it with power, but as he looked through the dust, Yoda came flying back through the two pieces, blade pointed at his chest. Sidious barely knocked it aside, and the two of them moved across the office in a blur of green and red, crashing together. Yoda sprinted across the wall, flipped over Sidious, and cut towards his shoulder, but Sidious blocked without looking, turned, and unleashed lightning from one hand, while swinging his saber with the other. Yoda caught the strikes, but the lightning sent him backwards. And at the same time, back on Kamino, The first 4 red guards attacked together in the first wave, their force pikes crackling with electricity as Anakin and Obi-Wan stood back to back. Anakin blocked one pike, ducked beneath another, then cut the first guard across the stomach before spinning and taking the second guard's head off. Obi-Wan stepped away from the third guard, trapped his weapon beneath his arm, and drove his blade through his chest. The fourth jumped from a table, but Anakin caught him in the air with the Force, slamming him through the wall. Obi-Wan threw his saber across the room, cutting through the guard before returning it to his hand. 4 of them were dead, but the remaining 8 were moving in as a pike struck Anakin across the back, dropping him to a knee, while another guard smashed Obi-Wan in the ribs, hard enough to knock him down. The Jedi mustered the strength to push the guards away, preparing themselves for the next wave, knowing it would not be easy. Back on Coruscant, Sidious drove Yoda through the doorway and into the outer office. Yoda backflipped into the open office, and as he looked up, 3 statues came flying towards him. Yoda cut through the first, jumped over the second, but the third hit him in the side and sent him crashing back to the floor. Blood was running from his mouth, one of his arms hung weakly at his side, but still, Yoda was fighting back, jumping from the floor to the desk, to the ceiling, then dropping behind Sidious and finally cutting across his back. But it was not a lethal strike, though it was enough to even the odds, and their blades would lock together again until Sidious smashed a fist into Yoda's face, sending the Jedi Grandmaster backing up as the fight got savage. Yoda was resetting himself, but he knew he was not winning this fight right now. And on Kamino, the 5th guard was stabbed through the heart by Anakin as Obi-Wan cut both hands from the 6th before slicing across his chest. The 7th fired a hidden blaster and struck Obi-Wan in the leg, but Anakin deflected the next bolt directly through the guard's head. The 8th slammed Anakin into a wall by charging into him, then raised his pike, but Obi-Wan ripped a broken metal pipe from the ceiling and drove it through his back. 4 remained. The 2 Jedi got back to back again, both wounded badly, as the final guards charged. The 9th stabbed Anakin through the side, but Anakin trapped the weapon against his own body, broke it with his metal arm, and drove the shattered end into the guard's throat. He cut the legs from the 10th and stabbed through his chest, and Obi-Wan took on the final 2. He blocked one pike, then Anakin moved in and blocked the other, and the Jedi switched opponents in the same movement. Obi-Wan ducked low as Anakin cut the 11th across the neck, while Obi-Wan drove his blade through the 12th guard from behind. Both Jedi nearly collapsed with the final guards. Anakin was bleeding heavily from his side and shoulder, while Obi-Wan could barely stand on one leg. But they were inside of the lab, and they closed the blast doors as they got to the files and found exactly what Yoda had warned them about. The chips were programmed to make the clones turn on the Jedi, but there had to be a way to disable it, so they would search for the command as fast as they could. And on Coruscant, Sidious would cut off the saber hand of Yoda, and then he caught Yoda in the chest with lightning, holding him in the air until smoke rose from his robes, pouring more and more lightning into him, then throwing Yoda hard into the floor. Sidious did not kill him, not yet. He wanted Yoda alive to sense and witness what came next. Sidious would open a secure channel to the clone commanders and give the command to execute Order 66. But nothing happened. He gave it again. Cody did not respond. Bly did not respond. Bakara, Gree, Rex, Wolf, they did not respond. And across the galaxy, the clone commanders received nothing more than a command that made no sense to them, aside from being sort of a distant memory. Sidious stared at the console in disbelief, and from the floor, Yoda did indeed feel it. The terrible wave of death that had killed the Jedi in his vision, or his previous life, never came. Anakin and Obi-Wan had succeeded. Yoda, nearly dead, smiled just a bit, and his one remaining hand moved as his lightsaber flew into his palm. Sidious turned as the green blade ignited, and with the final strength in his body, Yoda launched himself from the floor. His green saber went directly through Sidious's heart, and the force of the attack carried both of them backwards through the great window. They fell together into the open air of Coruscant, and Yoda finally understood why he'd been sent back. He'd not been returned to save himself. He was meant to die today, but he was meant to bring the darkness with him as he and Sidious died together. But only Yoda would reawaken in the spirit realm with Qui-Gon. And in the days that followed, Mace Windu would return from Kashyyyk to a broken republic that that he knew he could help to repair. Chancellor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, was dead, while Grandmaster Yoda had died killing him. Anakin and Obi-Wan returned from Kamino, with years of secret communications between the Sith and the Kaminoan government. They presented everything to the Senate. Lama Su and more Kaminoan leadership would be arrested, and the remaining Separatist leaders were arrested. Windu became the new leader of the Jedi Order, still not fully understanding Yoda's choice to send him to Kashyyyk, but knowing he must have had a reason, and he would allow all of the truth to come out. Days became weeks and months, without the Sith secretly pushing the galaxy towards another crisis. The fighting would stop. Worlds were sending representatives to Coruscant to negotiate their place in the new rebuilding galaxy. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma became some of the strongest voices for this rebuild, as Padme went away for a bit, giving a safe birth to twins. Anakin was deeply anxious the entire time, but he was able to be calm as he felt Yoda's presence in the room with him, helping Anakin to stay calm. And Anakin would be named Jedi Master because he and Obi-Wan had saved the entire Order together. And over time, the galaxy did move forward as Yoda looked on from beyond, proud of the Order and the life he had lived. And folks, that is our story for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was, it was fun. I've done, how many of these have I done where I do what if character X died and was reborn? I think I did. First one was Anakin on Mustafar. I think I did Obi-Wan on Utapau. Mace Windu? Yeah, I did Mace Windu dies and then is reborn on Geonosis, which was fun. The thing about this is, like, these story concepts with what if character X, Y, or Z died and then was reborn whenever. I just want to bring them to maybe, like, the most impactful moments for them. And for Yoda, I think that's, leaving Coruscant to go to Kashyyyk. Anakin, of course, dying on Mustafar. He didn't actually, but, like, yeah. Obi-Wan witnessing the fall while being on Utapau. And Windu going back to the beginning of all of it. So this can be done. Oh, I did it with Luke. Dying on the Death Star. Yeah, could be done with many other characters. Could do Dooku when he dies on the Invisible Hand. Could do Plo Koon in Order 66. Could do Padme. Padme dies in childbirth, but then is reborn. Ooh, could be fun. Anyways, hope you guys like the category, I guess is a word for it, that I've been doing. Appreciate you guys. Gonna go edit this and watch some baseball while I do. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.